Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have the first edition of the ESPN FPI fresh off the presses for 2025. I'm going to be going through the full list, all, what is it, 130 teams, 131 teams, whatever it is now. They keep adding more teams to FBS, but we're going to be looking through the entire list. And I believe there's also strength of schedule metrics that I can see in terms of the toughest schedules this year. And so before this starts, I do want to say this is very heavy in SEC teams. And people will say, well, this is ESPN's metric. This is their analytics. They have basically all of the TV rights to the SEC. So you could say there's some bias there. This is the thing with the FPI. I do like the idea of incorporating overall roster talent and recruiting into analytical rankings, which is what they do. But there are some SEC teams that are, I don't know how they're this high. And the problem is, this is like the standard bearer. Like, this sets the standard. And what you get is, obviously, a lot of the SEC teams are going to face each other. And so when a supposed really good SEC team faces another really good SEC team, the one that wins gets elevated. The one that loses normally doesn't fall down because they faced a really good team. And so there tends to be an overvaluing of the SEC in terms of these rankings. I do think because of overall roster talent, I understand, but you can see a little bit surprising to me. They do have Texas I'm not surprised Texas is number one just based off of them returning Arch Manning, and this factors into all of it. But they've got Texas at number one, Georgia at two, Bama at three, Alabama, a ton of roster talent. Wasn't the greatest last year. Didn't even make the 12-team playoff, but they're at number three. They've got Ohio State down at four. Ohio State did lose a lot, but they recruit extremely well. I would have figured Ohio State would have been at least at number two, but maybe nitpicking a little bit. It's early on. It is what it is, but that's three SEC teams at 1, 2, and 3, and based off of this FPI overall number, you can see Texas has a rating of 28.5. Ohio State has a rating of basically 23.5. That means that Texas on the road at Ohio State, this metric would have Texas as 2-point road favorites at Ohio State, according to this metric, because you get 3 points for being at home. Texas is basically 5 points better than Ohio State, so they'd be 2-point favorites on the road. Not saying they're going to be. If you look at the actual Vegas line, they have Ohio State 3-point favorites, which basically says their overall ELO rating is the exact same as Texas because you get 3 points for being at home. That's home field advantage. They have Penn State and Oregon back-to-back at 5 and 6. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. The problem is when I zoom this in, it doesn't really... All right, that's fine. Oregon at number 6, Penn State at 5. Yeah, I mean, Penn State, returning talent, returning QB. Oregon at 6. Plethora of talent from the transfer portal. Not too surprising. Notre Dame coming in at number 7. They made the national title game last year, losing Riley Leonard, although you could argue Riley Leonard, it wasn't like he was that great of a quarterback. I mean, honestly, same thing to a degree with Will Howard of Ohio State. Yes, he played really well down the stretch. He has the thing with Will Howard going from him to Julian Sayin. Sayin definitely has more arm talent and overall talent, but he's a lot more raw. Will Howard started like 3-4 years at Kansas State, then went to Ohio State. So it'll be a different kind of a year for Ohio State with a younger QB and that has more talent, but he has less overall seasoning. You have, like, this is where, like, Texas A&M at number 8. Like, I get it's based off of roster talent. There's no way Texas A&M should be number 8. Come on. You know? And the problem with this is they're already weighted so high. So when ESPN does their resume comparison with like top 25 FPI wins or where they rank in terms of the FPI, when other SEC teams beat Texas A&M, that's going to be, according to the computer, a very good quality win because they have Texas A&M at number 8 in their preseason rankings. Now, maybe Texas A&M, I don't know if they have a big non-conference game. If they lose that, then it'll affect it. But if you win all your non-conference games and you lose to a bunch of other SEC teams who are also ranked really high, Texas A&M is really not going to fall down at all because they're already initially ranked number 8 overall. I don't know. A&M is one of those SEC teams where it's like, come on. Like, I can see Tennessee being 10th based off of what they've done in the past 3 or 4 years, how potent they are on offense. Miami at number 9 with Carson Beck, we'll see. They face Notre Dame in week 1 at home. Looks like they're around 2-point favorites against Notre Dame according to these metrics. Notre Dame just 1 point better on a neutral field than Miami. Tennessee at number 10, Clemson at number 11. You could maybe a little bit surprised Clemson is not a top 10 team. Although we're nitpicking, it's very close. I mean, look at this. 17.3, 17.4, 17.5. LSU at number 12. How about that game? Clemson, LSU, week 1. Very, very close. Should be a good matchup. Ole Miss at number 13. Yeah, really no problem with that. Even losing Jackson Dart. They're a talented team. Lane Kiffin is going to have a really good offense. Auburn, here's another team. Auburn at number 14. Come on. What are we doing? And then it's like Bama at the end of the year is going to get a really quality win against Auburn. I mean, maybe Auburn will be better this year. They certainly, these SEC teams have a lot of talent, but it's like 14th overall. South Carolina at 15. I don't really mind South Carolina at 15. They've got, they had a good year last year. They've got the dual threat QB Sellers. So we'll see. Oklahoma at number 16. Come on. Really? I mean, another team that's talented. They just were not good. Brett Venables has really not proven much as a head coach. They've got Michigan at number 17. Even Michigan. I could understand Michigan at 17 because they finished 8-5. They beat Ohio State and Alabama. Yes, you could say the Alabama game was meaningless, and Michigan has the number 1 overall recruit in the country at quarterback, most important position. But he is going to be a true freshman. That's a big week 2 game, by the way. Michigan traveling to Oklahoma. They've got Oklahoma as 3-point favorites, according to this. Florida at number 18. I don't have much against Florida being at number 18. To me, another team that's very talented, but Lagway, maybe a little bit overrated. I know he's a former 5-star who flashed, so those are the type of QBs that tend to get overrated when they have limited playing time, and then everyone thinks they're going to take that next step, and sometimes they don't. USC at number 19. You could say USC even maybe a little bit overrated, but again, a lot of this is based off of how well they recruit and their overall roster talent. So USC, yes, they're a top 20 roster in terms of talent. It wasn't a great year last year for them, no doubt, but they lost a lot of close games. A lot of close games, really close games. I do remember that about USC. SMU at number 20 out of the ACC. Good season last year. I don't know, had a really letdown, though, when you're talking about the playoff. Kansas State, they're the first Big 12 team? The first Big 12 team at 21, Kansas State. Avery Johnson returns. We'll see. The Big 12 is such a mosh pit. Arkansas at 22. See, Arkansas at 22. Missouri at 23. Yeah. More SEC teams. Arizona State at 24. Nebraska makes the top 25 at number 25. Raiola. Yeah, they invested a lot into him. They let him start as true freshman. So now, sophomore, junior years should be really good for Raiola. We'll see. Virginia Tech. I didn't know Virginia Tech was going to be that good this year at number 26. Washington at 27. Washington has a huge week 4 game at home against Ohio State. They should start 3-0. And they might be ranked hosting Ohio State. I believe that'll be a 12:30 Pacific time start. That game should be on CBS based off of what I was seeing with the TV window. By the way, Penn State got the huge whiteout game this year against Oregon. They gave it to them because people thought that game was going to be on Big Noon. They gave them the whiteout. That's like week 4. Yeah, so I think Washington will play Ohio State in the 3:30 window at home, and Washington will probably be ranked in that game. Georgia Tech at 28. Georgia Tech should have beaten Georgia last year. You remember that game? It was like 6 overtimes. They should have won that game on the road in Athens. We'll see. In the ACC, that they can be a competitive team. They could be a top 25 team this year. BYU at 29. Look at all these Big 12 teams. This is where it is. BYU, Kansas, new stadium for Kansas, basically new stadium, completely rebuilt. They had to play at Arrowhead last year. They're an up-and-coming program. They kind of had a little bit of a setback last year. People thought they were going to be better. They did beat Colorado. I remember that game, higher scoring game. Indiana at 31. That's a bit of a gut punch for them. I think Indiana they'll be a preseason top 25 team according to the AP. But they just don't have the roster talent. That's why they're bumped way down. Because of their lack of roster talent in terms of recruiting. That's why a team like Michigan comes in inside the top 20 after losing 5 games, losing to Indiana last year. But Indiana, even though they got a new QB in the portal, they tried to replace, they just don't recruit nearly as well. TCU at 32 out of these Big 12 teams. It's a mosh pit. TCU, Baylor. Baylor had a great close to last year. Huge non-conference week 1 game. They're hosting Auburn. They're like 2.5-point underdogs. This is where it kind of becomes ridiculous. If you look at this, so Baylor scores an 8.0. and Auburn scores a 14.8. Oh, I guess that actually lines up then to a degree because they would have Auburn as like a 4-point road favorite at Waco. And in real life, they're 2.5-point favorites. So yeah, I guess that does kind of line up a little bit. Maybe not nearly as much, but Kentucky. I mean, these teams are all very close. That's why. To be fair to the FPI, there will be movement, especially with the non-conference games. When you get an SEC versus a Big Ten, when you get a Big 12 versus an SEC, you get an ACC versus a Big 12. That's where a lot of the movement will come from. The problem is when Auburn faces Texas A&M, the loser is not really going to be punished because they're both extremely highly rated. It's called a quality loss with the analytical stuff. That's the issue. So if you have all these SEC teams already inside the top 15, no matter the seasons that they have, the winner is just going to be rewarded. The loser is not going to be punished because the teams are already valued so highly. That's really the issue. But listen, if they're going to rank partially based off of roster talent, I'm telling you, when realignment started, when the SEC already was the best conference by far in college football, and you add the two best teams and you poach them from the Big 12, I mean, yeah, the Big 10 has certainly been competitive, and you have Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and Michigan. You're going to be competitive, but you don't have the overall talent, the depth that the SEC has. That's why there's this crazy discrepancy. You have even Kentucky at 34. I mean, Kentucky in front of Iowa. I'm surprised Iowa's that low. Iowa was getting top 25. I mean, they lost Caleb Johnson, I guess. Texas Tech at 35. Texas Tech's getting a lot of preseason hype. They are. Tulane at 36. Are they the first team from the American? So Tulane. Yeah, Tulane normally is a really solid team. So I guess I'm not too surprised about that. UCF at 37. What are they? They like the 7th or 8th best team in the Big 12, according to this. Wisconsin, Iowa. Wisconsin, they have a tough schedule. They have on the road at Alabama. They host Ohio State. There's Iowa. Boise State, the best team in the Mountain West. They lose Genty. We'll see. UNLV is also right there. Louisville, they had a really good year last year out of the ACC. Minnesota. How low is Illinois? You know, people think Illinois is going to be a top 25 team. I think Illinois is going to struggle this year. It's a combination. Illinois had a surprise good year last year. They returned a bunch of their talent. They have a relatively easy schedule. But I don't know, man. Illinois does not have the roster talent, but I think they're probably better than Minnesota. Iowa State down at 45. Utah at 46. Yeah, Utah's kind of tailed off a bit. Joining the Big 12 for them. I mean, they're like the 9th best team according to this. UCLA at 47. Yeah, UCLA, it's going to be tough for them. Florida State down at 48, man. They face Alabama week 1, hosting them. Colorado at 49. They lose Hunter and Sanders. They still have Deion Sanders, though. And then you do have Boston College at 50. So those are the top 50. I don't know anyone that sticks out to me. We'll go to the way bottom. How many teams are there? 133? Now there's 136. They still have Kent State as the worst team by far, by 5 points. There's Delaware. So Delaware's a new addition. Conference USA. Delaware was FCS, now they're FBS. Was there any other new additions? I know Kennesaw, their first year was last year. I think that might be it. Man, Air Force is this bad? Normally, Air Force is a respectable Mountain West team. Huh. Missouri State. I think Missouri State's another new addition. Yeah, Missouri State's not terrible. If this is their first year in FBS and they're this high. Yeah, Missouri State. You know they need to add Montana, Montana State, North Dakota State. That's what they should add from the FCS. But yeah, that's basically it. I guess Marshall really isn't that good. I was wondering why Georgia was such massive favorites against Marshall. I could see like a 27-point line, but they're like 38.5-point favorites or something. I was like, that seems pretty high, but I guess not. Now when you look at it. So, yeah. So they have Texas at number 1. Texas by 2 points at number 1. So that'll be a huge, in terms of Ohio State, if they beat Texas, that'll be big, even though they're at home. Georgia at number 2. Bama at 3, Ohio State 4. Penn State. I mean, all of these teams, it's kind of nitpicking. The teams that I would say, like the SEC teams, it's like A&M at number 8. Are we really still doing this? Seriously? Auburn at 14. Are we really still doing this? Arkansas, to a lesser degree, Arkansas, even Florida at 18. I mean, Oklahoma. Yeah. Like, I don't have a big problem with South Carolina, but come on. Oklahoma. That's good for Michigan. That'll give them a quality win if they can win on the road. That'll be a huge Big Ten SEC game. You know, you don't think of Oklahoma as an SEC team, but I'm trying to get in the rhythm of doing it. But let's actually go to the resume and see if we can you see the okay remaining strength of schedule, dude. This is just remaining strength of schedule. Let's see who has the toughest strength of schedule. SEC. Yeah. Big Ten, Wisconsin because they face Alabama. Ohio State because they face Texas. Syracuse because they face Tennessee. I think Syracuse might also face. No, I don't think they face Notre Dame. I don't know. They have a tough non-conference, but I guess Florida again has the toughest schedule. Everyone was saying last year how tough their schedule was. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas. You'd think Texas would be number 1. You remember Texas's SEC schedule last year was terrible. I think this year it's not that good either because that's with them facing Ohio State. But the thing is with these SEC teams, you know, they have 4 non-conference games. So they'll face 1 decent team and then the rest of their non-conference is just terrible. 3 horrible games. And for Ohio State, they only have 3. So they'll face 1 non-conference team and then they'll face 2 like MAC teams. But like look at Texas's schedule, it's pretty hilarious. San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston. After Ohio State. And that's a big noon game. But yeah, guys, that's basically just the update on the college football power index. I'm sure there's a lot of SEC. There's a lot of SEC in the top. But guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.